All right, so we have covered parsing JSON the manual way, and also with Swifty JSON, and now we are going to do it with Codable, all right? So Codable is pretty awesome. I'll admit, when I first tried it, when it was first released, I didn't really like it because there were some drawbacks that I just couldn't get over. For instance, you had to include all of the properties in your structure that would be returning from the JSON. And there's just some other things where you didn't have a lot of control, but they've really made it a lot better. And I'm excited to show you how that works. All right, so how we do it is actually fairly simple. What we need to do is first make our model conform to the Codable protocol. Okay, so right after person here, we say Codable. Okay, and it says here that this is a type that can convert itself into and out of an external representation. And Codable is basically a type alias for the decodable and encodable protocols. Okay, so Codable is going to allow us to convert this into different representations. And that's almost all you have to do. Now, there is one thing that we need to do. If our properties here were the exact same name as the properties coming back from the JSON, we would actually be done. But because some of our names are slightly different, we're going to have to do something else. So let's go ahead and open back up our Postman here. Or you could open up Swappy. And let's take a look at our properties here. So it looks like, let me go ahead and see if I can get both of these on the same screen. So name, height, mass, those are all the same, but hair color, you see here, the property coming back from JSON, the key is hair underscore color. This is in snake case. And here all we have is hair. And then birth year is in, birth year is in snake case. Homeworld is different. We have homeworld URL, and then the films, vehicles, and starships are also different. So what's happening is when we try to convert our JSON directly into a instance of our person using Codable, what it's going to do is it's going to take the JSON and it's going to take a look at the structure here, and it's going to match up the keys with the property names, and anything that matches is going to go ahead and assign that as the value for that property. However, if it doesn't match, then it's not going to match up and it's not going to work properly, okay? So we need to make sure that either these are the same exact names or that we tell Codable that if it sees something like birth year, that they should actually look for birth underscore year in the JSON. And the way that we do that is we add here an enum called coding keys, and these are all part of the Codable protocol, and we supply a string type and coding key. And then what we need to do is we need to have cases for each and every one of these. Okay, so even if the name is already the same as the JSON key, you have to add it back, because what's happening here is that this is automatically generated for us, but we are overriding it, and by overriding it, we need to add all of them back again. Okay, so I'm going to say case name, and then we're going to add that for all the rest. I find that it's helpful to just copy the properties, paste it here, and then replace all of the lets with case. And then remove any of these right here. There we go. So now we have all of the cases, and for ones that are different, for those that don't match up with what is coming back from the JSON keys, we simply supply what it should be looking for. So the JSON key for hair is hair underscore color, but we're telling it to match it up with the hair property here. For birth year, that is equal to birth underscore year. For homeworld URL, it should look for home world, and for films, that should look for films, and for vehicle URLs, that should look for vehicles. And for starship URLs, that should look for starships. All right, perfect. So now Codable knows how to match up all of these JSON keys with the correct structure property. All right, so that's good. Our structure is now prepared to be converted from JSON into an instance of a person object. So what we need to do now is we're going to create one more getRandomPersonAlamo function. I'm going to copy all of that and comment this out and then paste that. And this is going to be web request with Alamo Fire and Codable. All right, and this is actually all pretty much the same as the Swifty JSON, but instead of this right here, what we are going to do is we are going to try using something called a JSON decoder. Okay, so right here, I'm going to say let JSON decoder equal JSON decoder, and this is an object that decodes instances of a data type from JSON objects. We're going to initialize that. And here in our do, we are going to try to decode using the JSON decoder. So we're going to say let person equal try JSON decoder dot decode, and you'll see this returns a value of the type that you specify decoded from a JSON object. Okay, so basically we supply a type, our person. So I'm going to say person dot self from this data right here. Okay, so we're telling it what type we want to get out of this data. And if it's successful, we have an instance of our person. And then we just go ahead and do our completion. And that's it. That's all of the parsing that we need to do. There isn't any. All we do is supply the type that we expect to come out and the data, and Codable magically just matches up the keys and the properties from the JSON to the structure and creates an instance of our person structure for us. It's pretty great. So let's go ahead and run this, make sure I didn't make any mistakes. And let's press random. And indeed, it does look like it's working. Now I want to show you what would happen if you accidentally made a typo, for instance, in one of these, just so you know what that error will look like and that you'll know what to look for if you accidentally do something like that. So if we click on a random, then we're going to get this error. The data couldn't be read because it is missing. So if you see that, that means that either you forgot to include a case, you forgot to add a JSON equivalent, or that you misspelled something. So just go ahead and come back in here and double check all of this stuff and try it again. All right, so that is Codable. And just to recap, all you have to do is conform to the Codable protocol. If these don't match up exactly with the JSON, then you're going to need to add the enum for coding keys, string encoding key right here, and then add cases for all of your properties. For those that don't match up, you provide the JSON key string. And then when you want to use it, all you need to do is create a instance of a JSON decoder and try to decode it, supplying the type that you expect and the data. All right, and that is it. Super easy, and it's really nice. So I hope you guys enjoy this lesson, and I will see you in the next.